Hello and welcome to a new vlog and a video. We are taking a look at the first 3 days on board of the Mein Schiff Relax. We're starting at the airport of Gran Canaria, where I arrived 2 videos ago with Condor, and now we're heading to the ship. We are starting the cruise on the island of Gran Canaria, and then we are heading to Madeira, and we're gonna have a day at sea in between. The transfer is already included as I booked my flight together with the cruise, so I was getting picked up at the airport and brought to the ship by TUI Cruises. Here we are driving past the luxurious yacht, and here we can see the first cruise ship. So a lot of Germans today. And here at Gran Canaria there's an AIDA ship, and here is my Mein Schiff Relax. Boarding was pretty easy. Check-in, security and boarding took just a couple of minutes. And here I'm already on board, and we're taking a look at my cabin first. I was assigned a cabin for passengers with reduced mobility, therefore I got a lot of space, but as you can see, unfortunately this cabin is very grey. Here we can see the bathroom. Of course it comes with a shower curtain, but that's because of the special cabin. Of course I do not need a cabin like this, but it was an available cabin and I just got a guarantee cabin and I was assigned to this one. There's a lot of space, so it's no problem with the shower curtain. Otherwise the bathroom very spacious, also the cabin is very spacious, a lot of storage space, so everything is fine, but it's just too grey in my opinion. There's just a blue chair, the orange wall behind the bed and an orange detail at the lamp and an orange and a blue pillow, and that's it. The rest of the cabin is grey. There's no picture on the wall, there's nothing else that is not grey, and I really did not like this. I was a bit shocked when I got in the cabin first, but otherwise it's a very nice cabin. There is an emergency switch right next to the bed, so I was a bit scared to touch it by accident. I was asking my housekeeper what happens if I touch it by accident. He said it happens to him all the time when he's cleaning the cabin. It's not a problem. He will just get a call by the reception and they will ask if everything is okay. As you can see, there's a lot of storage available. There's a nice desk. We have power sockets everywhere in the cabin. So it is a very nice cabin. It's just too grey for me. I would have at least put a few pictures on the walls. You can see those huge empty grey walls, so that was not very inviting. And I was taking a look at other cabins as well when the housekeeping was there and the door was open, and they seemed to be as grey as my one, so that was a bit disappointing. Otherwise the cabins are nice. I then headed to the osteria for a nice lunch with pizza. Pizza was very good, and in the evening I went up to the sun deck taking a look at the port and the other ships here in Gran Canaria. And then it was time for the mandatory safety drill, which was concluded with a demonstration of the signal quite late in the evening after all passengers arrived. After that I went to sleep as it was a long day, and the next morning I woke up with a breakfast at the Sur Mer Bistro, and today it was a nice and relaxing day at sea on our way to Madeira. When I got back to my cabin I was surprised by a nice towel animal, and for lunch I went into the Taverna Dionysus for a nice Greek lunch, and the food was amazing. There are not only those well-known Greek foods but also some rather unknown things, and it was all very nice and tasty. It was very good. I then went up to the captain's bar to enjoy a nice drink in the most beautiful bar on board, and here in the background you can already see another cruise ship, and that was something special. It is the Mein Schiff 3. So the oldest ship of the fleet is meeting the newest, the youngest one, and of course the captains spoke to each other and they arranged a little meet-up at sea. We're gonna get quite close to the other ship, to the Mein Schiff 3. We're gonna enjoy this very special moment, and of course we're gonna have the chance to take a lot of nice pictures, and of course we're gonna hear the ship's horn quite a few times. And here you can see these typical long waves of the Atlantic Ocean. It doesn't look like there are any waves, but you can see how much the ship is moving. That is because of these typical long waves here at the Atlantic Ocean. So always when you're leaving the Canary Islands heading somewhere, you will almost always have those long waves and there will always be a bit of movement in the ship. And now I will let you enjoy this fantastic moment here on the first day at sea, the meeting with the Mein Schiff 3, without commentary and at some points with the original sound and the sound of the ship's horns. So that was a quite beautiful moment, first highlight of the cruise, and after sailing parallel for a while, then both ships turned again, heading into their direction of their next destination. For us it will be Funchal at Madeira, where we will be arriving tomorrow morning. This will also be a part of this video. We're taking a look at the first 3 days. So here we can still see the beautiful Mein Schiff 3, which is now the oldest ship of the fleet, much smaller than the Mein Schiff Relax, of course, as we are now on the biggest ship of the fleet. After this fantastic moment I went into the gym for some sports with a fantastic view. I always love it if you have a gym with a nice view. And then it was time for a welcome show in the theater. Our captain Todd Bergman introduced himself and his officers in the theater. And then it was time for dinner and a fantastic sunset. I chose the Chalet today. I made a reservation for the Chalet, which is the Swiss and Austrian restaurant on board. And just take a look at how nice this schnitzel is looking. It's by far the best schnitzel I ever had on a ship, so it is absolutely worth paying a surcharge to go for a dinner in the Chalet. And also the Kaiserschmarrn was amazing. Kaiserschmarrn, sometimes also called in Paris mess. Fantastic, and I really love it. And here we have arrived in Madeira and I've booked a fantastic excursion today. TUI Cruises is known for having very active and special excursions, and my excursion today was a Jeep tour. Doesn't mean that I'm driving the Jeep myself, but we have an experienced guide and driver who will take us around the island today. And he was not only the driver, he was also giving us a lot of explanations, and he did that in a very funny way, so we were laughing all day long. He was doing a fantastic job. At the beginning we were driving through Funchal, the capital of the island. We're now heading to Camara de Lobos, which is a small fishing town, quite beautiful little village where you can see those typical fishing boats on the beach, very colorful, quite typical. You can see pictures like that on a lot of postcards from Madeira. We got half an hour of free time here at this charming little village. And of course our driver explained to us what we can't miss here. He said of course we have to see the beach with the boats, and we should also visit the chapel, which we're gonna see in a second. But as 30 minutes is quite a long time for a small village, of course I went a bit further to take some nice pictures, and I also went up to the other side to take some more nice pictures. Here I'm at the Atlantic Ocean, the end of the village, and now I'm heading back into the city center, and of course I'm going to take a look at the chapel as our guide recommended. Here we can see the beautiful little chapel. It's a very small one, but as you can see, very impressive, absolutely worth seeing. And here we can take a look at the village from the other side. I went up the little rock there as well to take some more nice pictures and videos, and then it was time to head back to our jeeps. And now we're starting with the fun part of our excursions, because we're now heading to the mountains, and of course we're not gonna use the main roads. We're not going off-road at this moment, but we're using the smaller roads. And until this day, I would have said that I'm a very experienced driver and I can drive everywhere. But as soon as I saw the roads on Madeira, I changed my mind. I got a huge respect for our driver, because now we're gonna see some extremely steep roads. I think what would be considered a steep road in another country is not even a hill here on Madeira. We're gonna see that in a second. Madeira is also known as the Garden of the Atlantic. As you can see, flowers all year round. Whenever you're visiting the island, you will always see some blossoms. So very, very beautiful, and we just saw that here as well. And now we're starting with the fun part. We're heading up the mountains. We left the main roads pretty soon, and now we're gonna experience some very steep roads, of course combined with a quite aggressive style of driving, but of course always in a safe way. I was trusting my driver a lot. He was a very experienced driver, and you could easily tell that he knows exactly what he's doing, and now we can see that.
Now let's go! We need to go! Oh my God!
We've then reached the first viewing point, and unfortunately my memory card died at exact this moment, so from now on we can only see videos taken by GoPro and by phone. And you might be wondering why they are driving so aggressive at some points, and at some points the roads are so steep that you have to go quite fastly, because it's nearly impossible to restart your car when you stop at those steep roads. So there's even a reason behind this kind of driving, except the main reason, it's just a lot of fun for us. We then reached a second viewing point where you can take a look at the mountains of Madeira, and you can clearly see why Madeira is such a good hiking destination. There are hiking paths everywhere in this breathtaking nature, so if you love hiking, Madeira is the place to go. And now we're continuing off-road. Here you can see all our cars. I was in the white Land Rover today. We were the leading car. Now we're heading off-road. It's just a short stretch that is off-road, but of course that's gonna be a lot of fun as well, especially with our experienced and fun driver who's making jokes all day long. So I was laughing the whole day. This tour was clearly the highlight of the cruise. So of course now I'm gonna let you enjoy the off-road part as well without my commentary. You can hear the original sound and some music during it.
Big jump. Woo! Lava, great.
We then reached a local bar and we can now try the national drink of Madeira, which is called Funchal. Funchal is made from alcohol, made from sugarcane juice, honey, sugar and lemon juice, but there are some other versions with different fruit juices. That was already included in the excursion, and now with a bit of alcohol it's even more fun to drive around the island. Of course, you're thinking less about the steep drops, sharp corners and those extremely steep roads, but to be honest I was not scared in the beginning as well, because I was trusting my driver. He was an excellent driver and I felt very safe. And of course on the way down he was again using some roads that are very steep to show how skilled drivers have to be here in Madeira. I think you can get an impression of how incredibly steep those roads are. We're now heading to Cabo Girao, which is a viewing point, but a very special one as it is the highest viewing point with a glass floor in the world. We're now 580 meters above the ground on a glass floor, looking down 580 meters down to the ocean, one of the highest cliffs of Europe. So that was very spectacular. Luckily I'm not afraid of heights. As long as I have a railing, I was not scared because of the glass, so for me it was no problem, but for a lot of other people here it was quite challenging to get on the glass floor. But the view is rewarding for it, so it's absolutely worth visiting. Now we're heading back to the ship. After a wonderful excursion, of course, we're using one more steep. After that we're heading to the highway and going directly back to the ship. It was a fantastic excursion. It was my highlight of the cruise. We will have a second Jeep excursion later on, but this one was by far the best excursion on the whole cruise, mainly because of our driver, who was just extremely entertaining and a good driver as well. Here we can see the ferry to Porto Santo, the neighbor island. Very beautiful ship, in my opinion. It looks a bit like a cruise ship, even more like a cruise ship than our cruise ship, which just looks like a huge building, to be honest, because of its massive size. And then back on board I was greeted by another towel figure in my cabin, and after a quick lunch it was time again for me to leave the ship already again, heading into the city center of Funchal on my own. Here we can see the beautiful ferry Lobo Marinho again, ferry to Porto Santo. Hopefully there will be a video about this beautiful ship in the future as well. Here we can see another cruise ship, which is a luxurious cruise ship, the Silver Dawn. Of course, a very different category of cruise ship than my Mein Schiff Relax. And here we can see the Cristiano Ronaldo Museum and the famous statue that honestly looks nothing like him. But of course there has to be a museum and a statue of the most famous person from the island. And after heading into a shopping center to buy a new memory card, I then took a little stroll through the city center and the beautiful park in the center of Funchal. Here you can see the beautiful main shopping street. It's a very beautiful city center, but also walking along the shoreline is beautiful. So there are nice parks. You can even see the bananas growing in the middle of the city, so that was quite interesting. But my destination today is the cable car of Funchal. Will now bring me up to the mountains again. Up there you can take the Vicar Toboggan sled rides, which are of course very famous, but this time I decided to not do it, because I'm pretty sure I will be coming back to Madeira, and I will do it when I have a bit more time, because the toboggan sled ride ends in the middle of nowhere basically, and it's quite far to walk into the city center from there or back to the cable car, so you need a taxi, and you need to be a bit careful there according to reviews in the internet about the prices of the taxis. So this time I was just not in the mood for doing it, because also you have to wait for quite a while. You cannot make a appointment, you have to wait in line. So I decided to go up and back down with the cable car today and just enjoy the view from up there. The view was not too good today because we were just below the clouds and the weather was not as good as this morning. But there's also this beautiful church that you can visit. You can even see the church from down. Of course you can take some nice pictures of your cruise ships. Clouds were slightly in the way, but it was still quite good. Here we can see the interior of the beautiful church, so that's a must to see it from the inside. As you can see, it's extremely beautiful. And there are also some botanical gardens around the cable car. For some you have to pay, some are free. I went into the free one. It's just a park, but it's a very, very beautiful one. And you can see some nice flowers, of course, here on Madeira. Doesn't matter at what time of the year you're visiting Madeira, there always be some blossoms, some flowers to see. That's very, very beautiful. There was also a small lake with some animals. Here we can see the queue line for the toboggan run, and here we can see one of them going down the mountain. Of course, that's probably a lot of fun, and for sure there will be a video about it someday. Here we can see the little lake, and what's quite interesting, there were a lot of animals, especially a lot of doves. Just like here, they were hiding in the rocks, and when you took a look at the whole wall, you did not see them actually, but if you take a closer look, you can see there are hundreds of doves here on the rocks, so that was quite interesting to see. And you can even see some fish at some point jumping out of the water. Here we can see one. It's not the best quality because I zoomed in a lot, but you can see the fish jumping there. And then I headed back to the cable car to go back down to the city center in the most relaxing way, just by cable car. You can see the clouds again just above the mountains here. It was much colder than in the city center, so now let's head back down to Funchal. The cable car ride itself is also very scenic. You can get a lot of nice views. And here we are back down. And now I'm heading back to the ship on a direct way, more or less, taking some pictures in between. Here we can see the Mein Schiff Relax one more time. Very impressive ship. We can also see the Azura of P&O Cruises, and of course also the Silver Dawn was in port as well. Here we can see the church again that I've just visited, and now I'm heading through the nice parks here at the coastline again, back to the Mein Schiff Relax. Here we can see one of my favorite flowers, can be considered the national flower of the Canary Islands in Madeira. You're gonna see them everywhere here. Very, very beautiful. As mentioned before, there are also some bananas. You can also see bananas growing in the city center. And of course, you have the possibility to take a taxi from the cruise ships. Some ships are also offering a shuttle bus, but it only takes around 20 to 30 minutes to walk from the cable car to the ship, and from the ship to the city center is around 15 to 20 minutes. So in my opinion, it's not too necessary to take a shuttle bus. Here we are back at the pier, and we're now heading back on board. And then there was a very beautiful sunset, and it was time for dinner. For dinner I went into the French restaurant, the Sur Mer Bistro. There I had a fantastic dinner, it was very nice and tasty, and it was already included in the cruise fare. And now it is time to watch the sail away. The Azura was leaving Madeira first. But of course this time I waited until also we left the port, because sailing out of Funchal is one of the most beautiful sailaways possible, as the city is going all the way up the hills, so it looks like the whole hill, the whole mountains are illuminated. As you can see here, it just looks beautiful. It's absolutely worth staying awake until the ship has left the port of Funchal. There was also a party today on board, the White Night, but I was not joining the party, I was watching the ship going out of the port of Funchal. Here we have left the port. It's always a magical moment, especially together with the beautiful sail away anthem Große Freiheit of TUI Cruises. So here we have a little time lapse of us leaving the island, heading out to the ocean, heading back to the Canary Islands. Tomorrow we will have a day at sea again, but that will be part of the next video. We've now reached the end of this video. Here we have another beautiful view of Madeira. And we can also take a look in the other direction where we can still see the Azura of P&O Cruises. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe and share the video link, and I hope to see you in my next video then.